Good morning, students. As per the revised medical curriculum committee, suggested by National Medical Council, now the orthopedic lectures are arranged, in such a fashion. What are the things required of the students? Know about the musculoskeletal system and other systems influencing the musculoskeletal system. Therefore, the first lecture is on the description and discussion of the principles of pre-hospital care. One, casualty management of a trauma victim. Third one, principles of triage. Now, let us divide this into three parts, namely the principles of pre-hospital care. As you know, pre-hospital care means before the patient is handed over to the hospital care, that is called as principle pre-hospital care. Victims of accidents become patients receiving pre-hospital emergency care from highly trained professional personnel. See, there has been a lot of emphasis on how the mortality and morbidity of the injured patients can be reduced. The first and the foremost to do this work was the Red Cross Society, and especially the American Red Cross Society has improved upon its execution of its duties. And then from that, emergency medical services system evolved. Therefore, the emergency medical services system felt that the first treatment should be given to any injured patient or any sick patient, a patient suffering from illness, from the site to the place where the definitive hospital care is given. Therefore, the concept from first treatment, no, that evolved from the concept of first aid. Previously, it was called as first aid. Therefore, whatever the unqualified people, untrained people can do it at the site of accident or the illness with whatever little knowledge they know, that was accepted as first aid. Now, the concept of first treatment has come. Then, of course, second part of the discussion is on the casualty management of a trauma victim. And the third one is we would like to know what is triage, because in the triage, in casualty room, you've got a triage area. Therefore, the pre-hospital care means provision of professional level care at the scene and en route to the hospital. Therefore, emergency medical services system reaches out to the patient, assuming responsibility for care at the emergency scene. Emergency medical services system, the American Heart Association has produced training materials and programs for cardiopulmonary resuscitation and basic life support. Cardiopulmonary resuscitation and emergency life support are directed at pre-hospital emergency care. The partners or the stakeholders in emergency medical service system could be following, because this emergency pre-hospital care has to be given to a wider population at various odd situations. Employees or volunteer members of public and private organizations having a responsibility of delivery of health services, lay persons like ambulance personnel, rescue squad workers, policemen, firemen, lifeguards, workers in first aid or health facilities of public buildings and industrial plants, attendants at sports events, civil defense workers, paramedic personnel, and employees of public or private health services. The aim of emergency medical services system is emergency care, short of that rendered by physicians or by paramedic personnel under their direct supervision. Ambulance personnel, previously they used to carry the person physically from the site of accident to the hospital through ambulance. Therefore, now they have been given the additional training. They have been converted to skilled personnel to look after these injured people, till such time they reach the hospital. Therefore, all the emergency care from the time they first see the victim through transportation and delivery to care of a physician. Therefore, now they've got more responsibilities. See, for example, in a village, a person gets drowned. In the well, the villagers collect there and they dive in and then rescue the person drowned, and then they give the first aid whatever they know. Therefore, that is called as first aid. But the first treatment to be rendered by these ambulance personnel these days, they will go and appraise the extent of first aid rendered by the local people. And then they will employ additional measures so that they can move the victim safely from that site to the hospital. Operate the vehicle safely and efficiently. Maintain communication between the scene of emergency, traffic authorities, dispatchers, and emergency departments. Render necessary additional care en route. Transmit records and reports to medical and other authorities. Ambulance personnel, those who are not ambulance personnel, but who are responsible for delivery of health services should ensure minimal care, whether they transfer responsible to the ambulance attendant or in his absence carry out the functions required of him. Therefore, the term ambulance assistant is replaced by emergency medical technician. Therefore, this emergency medical technician, we have got the site, that is then the emergency medical technician, ambulance, advanced, and then emergency medical technician, paramedics. Therefore, emergency medical services system offers basic, advanced, and continuing education programs to most providers of pre-hospital emergency care. Emergency medical services system is more than emergency medical technicians and emergency department personnel. It is a chain of human and physical resources brought together to provide total patient care. It's not only the personnel who are involved, but also the other systems like people who can guide these casualties, in the form of separating the track from the rest of the areas, and also the efficient management of the vehicles. Casualty management of a trauma victim, the first consideration in management is the patient's general condition. Emergency measures are necessary to combat pain, hemorrhage. Shock hemorrhage should be controlled with pressure. Tourniquet are rarely recommended because of the potential for further nerve and limb damage. The blind use of hemostat in a wound is also not recommended because of the risk of damage to peripheral nerves lying near the vessels. From the time of injury until the patient is ready for the wound preparation for surgery, the wound should be protected by a sterile dressing. The extremities should be splintered to prevent additional soft tissue injury from movement of the sharp bone fragments. The medical history should include when and where the injury occurred. Examination should include determination of the extent and type of soft tissue wound and existence of any vascular or neurological damage. Vascular injury or compartment syndrome should be treated promptly to avoid tissue ischemia, which if present for more than 8 hours can cause irreversible muscle and nerve damage. Heckman et al. In an experimental canine study found that irreversible muscle damage occurred with the tissue pressure of 10 millimeter mercury less than diastolic BP or within 30 millimeter of mercury of mean arterial pressure. They emphasize that rather than an absolute tissue pressure value, a difference between tissue pressure and diastolic pressure of 10 to 20 millimeter mercury is an indication for immediate fasciotomy. Therefore, fasciotomy is a limb-saving procedure to prevent the limb from going in for ischemia. X-ray should be made to show the extent and type of injury to the bone. The extent of soft tissue damage sometimes cannot be determined until surgical exploration. The time since injury and the type and extent of soft tissue damage have a direct bearing on the choice of treatment. High velocity / high energy trauma results in more extensive damage to both the soft tissues and bone and carries with it a much more uncertain prognosis for healing than does low velocity or low energy trauma. The patient's general condition, the presence of related injuries, the degree of contamination, the degree of soft tissue devascularization, the delay in appropriate treatment, and numerous other factors influence the ultimate outcome and should influence treatment. Now, let us come to the third part of our discussion, namely the principles of triage. Multitrauma can mean that a patient has more than one injury. Polytrauma, as per the emergency care manual, indicate that there is more than one patient. It also applies to multiple patient situations where there are injuries and medical emergencies. Multiple patients or multiple casualties are used to avoid confusions. Most of the care an EMT provides will be delivered to one sick or injured patient at a time. In a situation like typical vehicle motor accident in a hospital where I worked, at a time we received 80 patients. There was such a situation as arising out of a motor vehicle accident. An emergency medical technician, this partner, may have to provide care for 2 or more patients simultaneously. When more patients are there than EMTs and other trained providers at the scene, a problem can arise in decision making as to who receives care first, who is transported first. A time may arise when an emergency medical technician responds to an accident and find a number of patients, perhaps a large number, with injuries ranging from minor to lethal. Along with the patients who are injured, there may be those who have had a medical emergency either immediately before the accident or one triggered by the accident. Now let us come to the definition of triage. Triage is a process used to sort patients in terms of priority for care and transport based on the severity of injuries and medical emergencies. The sorting of patients begins as soon as trained personnel reach the sick and injured. Through careful triage, patients can be placed into one of three categories: highest priority, second priority, lowest priority. In a typical triage, we got three priorities, namely the highest priority, under which respiratory arrest, airway obstruction, severe breathing difficulties, cardiac arrest, uncontrolled severe bleeding, severe head injuries, and open chest wounds, open abdominal wounds, severe shock, burns involving the respiratory tract, severe medical problems including heart attack, stroke, heat stroke, poisoning, and abnormal childbirth and unconsciousness are included. Second priority are severe burns, injuries to the spine, including cervical spine, moderate bleeding, conscious patients with head injuries, multiple fractures. Lowest priority are those with minor bleeding, minor fractures, minor soft tissue injuries, moderate and minor burns, obvious mortal wounds where survival is not expected, obvious death. Then this triage is challenged. This typical triage is challenged by some people, and they have, evolved what is called as a modified EMS triage. And to that, they have put in four categories: highest priority, second priority, delayed priority, lowest priority. Obviously, dead patients, as in decapitation, is in the fourth category, making the dead victim the lowest priority. Therefore, there is an objectional philosophy to this modified EMS priority. Triage priorities can change depending on the number of patients, types of injuries, and the number of emergency care providers at the scene. For example, cardiac arrest is a high priority emergency. However, there are many patients with life-threatening problems and few emergency care providers. Cardiac arrest patient may become a lowest priority patient. This may be necessary to prevent patients from dying while a rescuer tries to save one. The objection is due to the failure to understand that there are limits as to what the EMS system can do in certain polytrauma situations. It all depends upon the supply and demand. If there is less supply when compared to the demand, then of course there will be little failure in this EMS system, which has to be appropriately modified. That is the very purpose of having an annual meeting, how they can update this EMS system. That is why there is an update on this EMS system. Then this triage, you've got the most important step, maybe the identification procedures. If there are adequate personnel for a polytrauma emergency, triage stops when you find a patient in respiratory arrest, severe respiratory distress, cardiac arrest, or with life-threatening bleeding that requires immediate care. If the first person you check is in respiratory arrest, you cannot go on to the next patient, planning to return when patient is completed. You must care for life-threatening emergencies as you find them. One factor that may require modifications in any triage is that patients do not always remain stable. So you have always these hidden injuries, and you've got no unexpected findings in the second survey. The scene includes a large number of patients. You'll also find yourself having to modify care procedures. For example, your highest priority patient may be classified as such because he is unconscious. However, when you assess another patient, you may note that a patient formerly classified as having moderate bleeding is in need of immediate care. he might have raised that critical, irreversible, reversible to irreversible shock, namely the loss of more than 30% of hematocrit volume, more than one third of the blood volume. No, you will have to come back to monitor the unconscious patient, but you cannot provide continuous monitoring while the other patient bleeds. Every ambulance and rescue unit should carry tanks that can be used during the triage phase of a disaster operation. Suppose you've got a massive disaster, no, and at the scene of the operation, no, you need a tank system. While identification systems vary, an effective system uses colored tanks. Colored tanks, red tanks identify highest priority patients. Green tanks, second priority, white tanks, lowest priority. While highly visible colored tags are used, emergency care personnel easily can see who should be treated first. These tags are usually designed to show information such as vital signs at the time of survey, known and suspected injuries, and changes in patient's condition during transport. Since triage must be accomplished without delay, tags should be designed so that they can be filled out quickly. Tags should always be affixed conspicuously to the patients. Then comes the next stage of triage, namely the triage and patient assessment. The most important thing is to put it in the pigeonhole of highest priority or moderate priority or lowest priority. You must first assess the patient's condition. You've got two surveys, namely the primary and secondary surveys, including patient and bystander interviews, are critical in determining care and order of care when you are more than one patient. Vital signs are the highly significant signs must be assessed quickly related to possible problems, injuries, or illnesses. There is no time for the emergency medical technician to try to remember how certain symptoms and signs relate to injury and illness. No time can be set aside to check charts in textbooks. See, therefore, you must have the full training so that you must have all these assessment, steps in your fingertips so that they can apply, without looking into these charts in textbooks. Emergency medical technicians know how to conduct a proper patient assessment, how to relate these findings to specific illnesses and injuries. As an EMT, one must be able to apply the following information to the assessment and care of patients. See, the vital signs stand the foremost. Pulse. Rapid full means fear, overexertion, heat stroke, high blood pressure, early stages of internal bleeding. Rapid and steady means shock, blood loss, heat exhaustion, diabetic coma, falling blood pressure. Slow and full, stroke, skull fracture, no pulse, cardiac arrest. Respiratory vital signs, rapid shallow, shock, heart problems, heat exhaustion, insulin shock, congestive heart failure. Deep, gasping, labored, airway restriction, congestive heart failure, heart problems, lung disease, lung injury from excessive heat, chest injuries, diabetic coma. Snoring. See, you must be in a position to identify snoring, crowing, and gurgling. Snoring means stroke, fractured skull, drug or alcohol abuse, partial airway restriction. Crowing, airway restriction, airway injury due to heat. Gurgling, airway obstruction, lung disease, lung damage due to excessive heat. Coughing blood, chest wound, rib fracture. Blood pressure, vital sign, high, chronic hypertension, head injury, severe pain, drug withdrawal. Low, chronic hypotension, shock, internal bleeding, chest injury, drug abuse. Skin temperature, vital sign, cool, moist, shock, bleeding, body is losing heat, heat exhaustion. Cool, dry, exposure to cold. Cool, clammy, shock, heart attack. Hot, dry, heat stroke, heart attack. Hot, moist, infectious disease. Then you must identify the skin color. Of course, it's very difficult in a dark complexion individual. Red, high blood pressure, heat stroke, diabetic coma. Cherry blood, carbon monoxide poisoning. White, pale, ashen, shock, heart attack, excessive bleeding, heat exhaustion, fright, insulin overdose or insulin shock. Blue, heart failure, airway restriction, lung disease, certain poisonings. Now, we must give them enough training for the emergency medical technician to identify the size of the pupils. Pupils, if they are dilated, unresponsive to light, indicates cardiac arrest, unconsciousness, shock, bleeding, heat stroke, certain types of drugs, lysergic diethylamide, upwards. Constricted, damage to central nervous system, certain types of drugs like heroin, morphine, codeine. Unequal, stroke, head injury because of this temporal herniation. Lackluster, shock, coma. Then one must be in a position to find out under which state of consciousness the patient falls in, from a spectrum of altered sensorium to full coma. Confusion occurs in fright, anxiety, illness, minor head injury, alcohol or drug abuse, mental illness, epilepsy. Stupor, moderate to severe head injury, alcohol or drug abuse, stroke. Brief unconsciousness, minor head injury, fainting, epilepsy. Coma, stroke, anaphylactic shock, severe head injury, poisoning, drug or alcohol abuse, diabetic coma, heat stroke. Then paralysis or loss of sensation. One side of body, you have to think in terms of a stroke or head injury. Upper limbs, spinal injury in neck. Lower limbs, spinal injury along back. Upper and lower limbs, spinal injury in neck and possibly along back. No pain or no obvious injury. Then you have to think in terms of a spinal cord or brain damage. Shock, hysteria, drug or alcohol abuse. Whether it is spinal, whether it is neural, or whether it is the neuromuscular junction or is the muscular, that becomes the entire area of the specialists. Now let us consider what are the ways in which this triage can be implemented at the disaster scene operation. A triage point/point should be set up in a safe area. At least one of these triage points should be in the immediate area of the command post. The command post means a safe area where the first ambulance arrives, though it may be replaced later by another vehicle. Triage areas are to be located so that all patients are funneled through triage before they are taken to ambulances for transport. A second triage area should be set up to determine the order of transport for treated patients. This area must be set up so that all patients go from initial triage and care through the transport triage. The patient must be brought to the second triage before ambulances are called from the staging area. Therefore, now that we have understood how to act at the time of an accident, now what are the intricate points which are involved in assessment of the patients and providing first treatment, not first aid, to these patients, therefore, before the definitive treatment in the hospital, in the emergency room.